Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Erica. It's an honor to be here in Seoul and also participating here at BUIDL as well. Erica and team do a wonderful job putting on this event, and I'm very honored to be here. As she mentioned, to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, but more specifically, the Bitcoin ecosystem and its evolution towards productivity and how that's going to unlock this next trillion-dollar economy that we're starting to see take place over the last 18 months. I'm Kyle. I'm the Executive Director of the Stacks Asia Foundation. For those who may not be familiar with Stacks, Stacks is one of the original Bitcoin layers, and we were the very first to bring programmability and smart contracts to Bitcoin, to open up a wave of what was possible when built on Bitcoin, leveraging its stability and security as well. We initially launched in 2019 and further saw our vision come to life with smart contracts on Bitcoin in our mainnet in 2021, and have since led in the Bitcoin industry and in several categories, seeing the early marketplaces, gaming, NFTs, DeFi, and so much more when it comes to building on Bitcoin. And this revolution around Bitcoin has just begun. But to understand where we are today, we need to take a quick step back in time as well. Looking at how we got here and the 15-year journey that has taken place since. We go all the way back to Bitcoin's initial launch in 2009. And the 12 years that amassed that built a foundation that would lead into the ability to build on Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin, the network, and BTC, the asset, initially launched, we were given the very first of so many categories that we look at today as thriving areas throughout Web3 and crypto that you've heard about here all day today. And that includes the very first non-fungible tokens, all the way dating back to 2014. That includes the very first crypto domains. That includes the very first real-world assets and the very first Bitcoin layers, each bringing something different and possible to Bitcoin's greater and later future technical stack, helping to drive the future of productivity of Bitcoin beyond a store of value. This foundational era welcomed in the next and the last particular 4 years, which began from 2021 to 2024. And this was an era of experimentation that we saw at every level of the technical stack, from the initial smart contracts to early Bitcoin DeFi, and also a mass amount of Bitcoin layers, going from just about a dozen to over 85 different layers. A time all of last year that we welcomed in institutions through ETFs. We saw 12 different token experiments. We saw the very first verified proofs and rollups on Bitcoin. This was a time, again, of experimentation. What was possible, what was necessary, and what would be required for Bitcoin to be a productive asset. And thankfully, at the end of this era, Bitcoin was no longer considered boring. It was considered exciting, because we saw a shift from a store of value to utility, where applications were being used, not just by tens or hundreds, but by thousands and 10,000s of people, and later millions, as we see now today. These two eras combined welcomed in a massive opportunity. Thanks to the launch of ordinals in 2023, we saw a resurgence of building on Bitcoin and the excitement of what was possible for Bitcoin. At the end of 2023, the entire activity around Bitcoin and Bitcoin applications was 300 million in TVL. In 2024, the amount of development, the amount of activity, the amount of participation from all of us drove that number over 20x to $6.5 billion. In the last 3 months here in 2025, we've seen that grow almost 20x to $7.6 billion. Just under 0.5% of total Bitcoin's market cap productive for the very first time. Now, to understand the opportunity that lies ahead versus where we are today, we take our biggest comparable. What has happened and what has been built on Ethereum in the last almost 8 years. We start to look at Ethereum's market cap and what is productive or what is actually being utilized in applications. That ratio is about 21% when it comes to Bitcoin's market cap to what's productive, Ethereum's market cap to what's productive on Ethereum today. We take that same ratio and we apply it to Bitcoin, and you have an opportunity of almost $370 billion at current numbers today of opportunity when it comes to building on Bitcoin. That is greater than the entire stablecoin market today. And slightly different than Ethereum, there's also 47 million wallets active, unique today, with more than $1 of Bitcoin being held in them. That means there's a user base of over 47 million people looking towards an opportunity of almost $370 billion, which is a tremendous opening path towards Bitcoin DeFi. But for us to go from 47 million people to the next billion people, we need Bitcoin layers, not just L2s, but all Bitcoin layers to truly activate Bitcoin capital. Part of that is because Bitcoin itself does not have native DeFi. There is not native yield ability on Bitcoin today. Bitcoin layers and Bitcoin L2s help to unlock this Bitcoin capital and the possibility of what can be done beyond that as well. So we look at the Bitcoin landscape as of today, just zeroing in on this part of the greater Bitcoin ecosystem. We go from 4 original Bitcoin layers to over half a dozen, into a very simplified but also design-specific technical stack, each bringing something different to Bitcoin's development. Over the last year and continuing in this year, we have over 20 plus different protocols and layers that are continuing to bring something unique all the way from the L1 up to the application layer. We now have rollups and proofs verified on Bitcoin, mainnet and testnet. We now have an active Bitcoin staking and restaking category that we did not once have as of last summer as well. We now have over 70,000 plus Bitcoin active in those staking protocols as well. We now are looking at the possibility of going from trust minimized to trustless transactions with concepts like BitVM 1 version 2 and other concepts that are under development right now as well. And thanks to a lot of these developments, we saw an explosion around tokenized Bitcoin assets, going from wrapped Bitcoin and a handful of others to over 20 different assets that today make up a $32 billion market in terms of Bitcoin right now. And again, this is just a small piece, but the largest category of the entire Bitcoin ecosystem that is continuing to grow and continue to flourish over the last 18 months. And at Stacks, we're very fortunate to be a part of this ecosystem, but also driving a great deal of it forward as well. Having brought smart contracts to Bitcoin and opening up the possibility of applications on Bitcoin. We also have one of the fastest growing developer ecosystems and developers that are coming to Bitcoin to build and push these types of categories forward as well. Most recently, we launched one of those tokenized Bitcoin assets, SBTC, and went from 0 to over 3,000 BTC deposited in that program in 2 short caps in less than 72 hours. And our thriving ecosystem continues to grow globally with developers and applications in all the categories I mentioned, everything from NFTs and e-commerce to Bitcoin DeFi or BTC-Fi, which is the category we're starting to see the most growth and activity. Our first 2 eras, the foundation and experimentation, those first 15 years of Bitcoin have now given birth to the area that I'm most excited about and we're most excited about at Stacks that we're seeing across Bitcoin today, and that is the era of productivity. Once thought of just as utility and now thought of as productivity, a time in which Bitcoin is a usable asset. It is an asset that can be used natively, it is an asset that can be bridged into multiple different ecosystems and in applications as well. We're now transaction throughput is not in the hours, it is now in the sub-seconds. A lot of that effort came to what we just did at Stacks with the Nakamoto upgrade, making it a fast and accessible network for all. We are also seeing this era welcome in that trustless transaction, the idea of Bitcoin stablecoins, the welcoming back of real-world assets to Bitcoin, and integrations with network, not just on Ethereum or EVMs, but also in Solana and in the Move ecosystem from Aptos and Sui and others as well. And with this era, we've also seen this massive mega trend start to unlock. Last year in 2024, we went from 0 Bitcoin ETFs to over a dozen. By the end of the year, seeing over 30 Bitcoin ETFs that have seen over $40 billion of inflow in just its first year, all led by large name institutions that have welcomed more from the traditional and retail finance world into the world of Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin now, as it stands in 2025, is an asset that everyone and anyone, no matter your technical or financial know-how or ability, have an avenue to participate. Whether that be buying the asset core on exchanges, all the way through to making it a part of your active portfolio, you now have a way to participate. And a lot of the financial institutions, BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, and others are helping to drive that. But not just to retail, but also to sovereign wealth funds. We're seeing countries like Abu Dhabi put large amounts of investment into these ETFs, showing their excitement as sovereigns at the possibility and future that Bitcoin has laid in front of us. So we go from the ETFs to the next part of that mega trend, which is the Bitcoin Standard Corporation, where it is now becoming standard practice in 2025 for corporations to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. A playbook that was initially led by Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, and now pushed forward by MetaPlanet, GameStop, and also Moon Inc. out of Hong Kong, and over 75 different public companies. And the area that I'm also most excited about is Bitcoin sovereigns. We had the announcement in the United States of the establishment of a Bitcoin reserve, and we had that by many other countries as well. But even more importantly, and as we sit here in Seoul right now, the big seismic shift that has happened aside from this institutional boom is the shift in policy and opening towards Bitcoin. These last 3 eras helped to build the technical infrastructure to make this happen today. That now in the United States, once very turned off to crypto, has now completely begun to embrace it, from Bitcoin to stablecoins to the industry as a whole. We are also seeing that in countries like Japan. Here in South Korea, just saw the change in policy to allow institutions for the first time to begin investing in crypto and Bitcoin as well. Seeing the same in Hong Kong, Thailand, Vietnam, and as of about 36 hours ago, Pakistan as well. This is a trend that's not going to slow down. This is a trend that is going to accelerate from here. And all of that is going to lead to this main point that I made earlier, and that is to productivity. We go from 0.5% of today active Bitcoin participation to surpassing 1% over to 5% as institutions, as retail, as users begin to participate with their Bitcoin and look towards a passive yield or income in some kind of generation. And that map goes from left to right. Today, as we know it, Bitcoin productivity meant Bitcoin basis trades, options, lending, loaning, to now being able to actually participate through these tokenized assets. Again, 20 plus different assets, each providing something different, from permission to permissionless, from centralized to decentralized, leading us into this world of Bitcoin staking and Bitcoin yields. Depending on your risk appetite and profile, there's something for everyone and anyone, no matter where you are. Leading into the biggest opportunity in Bitcoin, and that is Bitcoin DeFi, something that once was looked at $370 billion, that will greatly demand and push us near $1 trillion in the next year and a half. For those of you that are listening, that are looking at the opportunity where to participate next, where to build next, what is possible for the future of Bitcoin and Bitcoin productivity, I welcome you to look at the opportunity that sits behind me right now. Today, 0.5% of Bitcoin activity sits at just $7.6 billion. As we start to welcome in more applications, more institutions, more retail, more policy change, and the openness toward Bitcoin DeFi and everything that you are all working on now, you see an opportunity in front of you of $370 billion. Not just the biggest opportunity in crypto, but one of the biggest opportunities when it comes to technology for building and participating in today. Look forward to welcoming you into this area via Stacks and via the entire Bitcoin industry, and hope to be a part of this journey with you from 370 to over $1 trillion in opportunity. Thank you very much.